Well, hello again, everybody. This is John Norris at Trading Perspectives. As always, we have our good friends Sam Clement and Courtney Trush. Y'all say hello.
How's it going?
Hey, John.
Hey, guys. Listen, it's getting close to summertime, and weather's been nice. It's getting a little bit warmer, although it's been a little chilly in the mornings around here recently. But I know a couple people that are making some trips across the pond here coming up. Going to United Kingdom, a little sojourn over to the continent for at least one of you all, and here you are, you're having to convert some currency for those people who want to have a few bills in their pockets, and trading dollars into pounds and euros means you're really kind of participating in the global foreign exchange market, whether you realize it or not. And when you start thinking about the global foreign exchange market, really it's been dominated by the U.S. dollar for really since Bretton Woods, back at the World War II sort of type era.
Yeah.
If we're going to protect the world, by God, you're going to use our currency to do it, that sort of deal. There's a huge chunk of that. And while we're not officially on that Bretton Woods any longer, it still kind of holds true that the U.S. dollar is sort of the primary world's reserve currency. International trade is largely done in it. Commodities trade's largely done in it. And Sam, Courtney, y'all going to have to be dealing with dollars and pounds and euros and all that stuff. Sam, what do you think is the long-term story, if you will, for the U.S. dollar relative to other major trading currencies?
Well, I guess first off, I kind of wish I could have booked all this and paid for it all back in September, was it? September, October?
Yes, that's when I was, there.
20-ish% discount on everything.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, we've talked kind of on and off about it, I don't think as the main topic, but the strength of the dollar and what it takes to be a world's reserve currency. Mm-hmm. And you can talk about, the dollar's going to lose weakness or lose its strength. It's going to no longer be the reserve currency at what point. But then the flip side of that is, okay, then what's going to take its place? And there's no good answer for it.
Well, and I guess to that point is by our currency being the international currency, most dominant or widely accepted currency, does it hurt us?
Well, actually, in some ways, I would say it might hurt us. Now, a strong dollar is good for the U.S. consumer, without a doubt. That makes imports far less expensive than they would be ordinarily. And it also means that constant demand for dollars, having that strong dollar, maybe, Sam, and I would say probably so, helps to keep interest rates lower in this country than they would be ordinarily. So the strong dollar, constant demand for U.S. currency because people have to trade in it. There are countries like Ecuador that use the dollar as their own currency, that sort of thing. So, having the dollar be the world's primary currency has made things cheaper for the United States, for U.S. consumers, and then has allowed U.S. borrowers to borrow more cheaply than they would ordinarily, given the massive trade deficit that we have.
Right, and it's almost kind of a balancing act, though, I think, because to be the world reserve currency, you almost have to run some sort of deficit, I could argue, and that talks about that would inherently raise interest rates, but then you have so much demand for it that starts to put a ceiling or start to compress those interest rates as well.
Yeah, when you take a look at really our current account deficit every year, and we're talking about our trade balance, I mean, it's massive, just absolutely massive, 800 to a billion to $1 trillion or what have you. It means we have to have dollars coming back over into our capital account, and this really kind of helps the dollar because we have foreign investors, foreign depositors, just foreign central banks that are gobbling up dollar-denominated assets, and that keeps our currency from spiraling out of control, either one way or the other. But I would tell you, Sam, with the way things are, and you and I have talked about this, the differences between the global north and the global south, global north being sort of the old first world countries, G7 plus Japan, maybe Korea and Taiwan, and the global south being, for all intents and purposes, everyone else. Global south is kind of like saying, I'm tired of the dollar. I'm tired of playing by the rules that the Westerners put up. And so you're starting to hear some grumbles about maybe the Saudis and the Chinese are going to trade in, yuan or what have you, or the Argentines or Argentinians are going to trade with the Chinese and pesos and what have you. And so if that all happens, what happens to the dollar's strength? All of a sudden, if the Argentinians and the Chinese, the Brazilians, they don't need dollars in order to trade with each other around the world, is that going to really interrupt the flow of currency into the United States and therefore make things more expensive for U.S. consumers and drive up interest rates? I think that's what the real concern is.
I think you're right. But we've talked about it again. Again, hammering home the question of, that, they can make some small trades with Argentinian pesos and the Chinese yuan. However, I don't necessarily think a lot of these countries are going to be wanting to hold volatile Argentinian pesos
You don't think so?
on their balance sheet. I think that's a relatively safe bet, and it goes back to the value of the U.S. currency and the value of having, an unmanipulated currency as kind of the main part of the cash that you're holding on to. And that's speaking to countries, not even just, individuals.
So when you say the unmanipulated benefit, right, of the dollar, could you ever envision, and I already kind of know the answer to this question, could you ever envision us having just a world currency? One single currency?
I think maybe theorists would say, "Wow, wouldn't that be great?" But that wouldn't be able to hold in practice. Having enough trouble with the euro as it is, and that's just a continent. When you take a look at countries like Greece that can't control their own fiscal policy because they have the same currency as the Germans, I think it just leads to greater problems. So, yeah, I mean, people would say, "Wouldn't that be great?" But then ultimately, all it takes is one country to back out, saying, "I've got to have control over my own fiscal policy and monetary policy," and the next thing you know, everything falls apart.
That would require getting the Chinese to, they have extreme capital controls on the currency in their country, and that is one of the biggest reasons why it couldn't become the global reserve currency. And to get some sort of global currency, you would have to have...
It almost have to be free floating.
I don't imagine... I can't really wrap my head around how you would have a not free floating global currency. What that would look like. I don't think that could work.
Back when
what does that mean when you say free floating?
That it's not pegged to another currency or what have you. So what happens is, like, the Chinese have long pegged their currency relative to the U.S. dollar within a range. So if it gets too strong because they're running a current account surplus, well, then they'll go and sell some of their own currency out on the market. If it's getting too weak, then they'll buy.
They're manipulating it.
They're manipulating it. So
a peg it's a nicer way to say you're manipulating your currency.
What's interesting is you have all these countries that peg their currency to the dollar, and yet Congress refuses them to call them currency manipulators, which is exactly what they're doing. And even the Japanese do that to a degree. The Bank of Japan will go in periodically and waste all their foreign currency reserves on trying to keep their currency relatively weak. And so it's kind of nuts in that regard. It's just kind of wasting your money. But kind of moving forward, I mean, not moving forward, but moving backward. I remember when the euro was getting ready to come into existence. I mean, when I started out, we were still trading in marks and francs. We weren't trading in pesetas or lira terribly much in my firm in Baltimore, but we would occasionally have to do these currency transactions. A little bit more of a nightmare than you can imagine. But I remember thinking, I just don't see how long this is going to last.
I know,
and
it's lasted.
But I've really I don't know how long this is going to last. I mean, are the French really going to want to have a banknote with Otto von Bismarck on it? And what about, is the de Gaulle going to be on the 10 euro note? I mean, I wonder what the Germans will think about that. Well, of course, they've gotten away from that by having prisms and fish and weird things on their currency, but even
things
so,
that mean nothing.
Well, what's impressive too is that I remember when the euro came out, it was pretty much $1 to euro. Like, it was pretty 1-to-1.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything, it was even that you could get more for the American dollar than the euro. And now, I mean, right today it's $1.10. Yeah, is 1 euro.
So, I mean, kind of all that bouncing around since the beginning of the century, and it's still within 10% of where it started out.
Pretty
But
good.
I would say the reason why I have thought that the euro's days are going to be numbered, I don't know how to measure it, whether or not it's years or decades or what have you. It's just all it's going to take is another significant crisis in the Greek economy or the Italian economy or even the Spanish economy, and they're going to say, guys, we got to be out of this.
Yeah.
We can't. We've got to be able to control our own monetary policy. And then what you could very easily see would be sort of a northern European currency and a southern European currency. But that doesn't take us back to the question at hand: what is out there to compete with the U.S. dollar? And the thing is, you're absolutely right, Sam. There's nothing. This can't be the Chinese yuan. I don't think it'd be the euro for this reason.
I don't think that they would want it to be the euro.
No, without a doubt. Swiss franc's not large enough or liquid enough. The same with the Canadian dollar. Even the British pound, which was one time the world's primary currency,
Right. Yeah.
it might not be large enough to grease
Countries don't
international
want
transactions.
this.
No.
Exactly.
I don't think this is necessarily a country would be striving to call themselves the world's reserve currency.
For some reason, we seem to think it's pretty groovy, though, I think.
I mean, I think there's definitely probably some pros and cons, but countries are not capable in their current right and their current status to become a reserve currency, and it would take. I mean, if you start removing capital controls from the yuan to try and allow that to work its way into being a reserve currency,
say that thing would soar like nobody's business, and their export machine would go down the tubes.
right? So so they don't want it.
No, they don't.
They can talk about it all they want, but they don't want it.
No, they don't want it. And the thing is, I don't see another alternative, nor do I see all of a sudden all these countries no longer trading in U.S. dollars. I don't see that being a real threat either.
No.
Because let's face it, I mean, if Brazil and Mauritania want to trade in reals or what have you, does Brasilia really want to have a whole bunch of Mauritanian currency on its books?
Or some Bosnian marks on the
or,
books?
or what have you? Of course, the answer to that is of course not. So what do? You go and find the most stable, most liquid currency in the world, the primary world reserve currency. So let Beijing and Buenos Aires trade in whatever currency they want. The Bank of China is not going to sit there with a bunch of Argentine pesos on its balance sheet. Absolutely no way that happens.
It's the same thing. I mean, even take it down to a personal level. It's like, okay, this is our money. We sold our house or something where we got to buy things with it here in the future. What are you going to put it in? And here we're going to put it in probably cash, which we would consider U.S. dollars, even just on a personal level to be the safest thing. I'm not going to go put the money I sold my house in to buy another house in Ethereum or just something that I know is going to move, may move up, may help me, but that's not the goal. And so when you take that to a global level, it's the same thing that we would consider the safest thing, the most easily forecastable what it's going to be is the U.S. dollar.
Courtney, I'm going to go out on a limb and say there's not going to be a significant threat to the U.S. dollar as the world's primary reserve currency for at least 2 decades.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying.
What would you think it would be, though?
That's why I'm throwing it out there. In 2 decades, I'm not going to be doing this any longer, so I don't have to answer that question.
Okay, there you go.
So I probably will not be co-hosting Trading Perspectives in 2 decades.
All right, so how many currencies do you believe are out there as of today? Just ballpark number.
Well, that's a great question. Let's see, the Caribbean has its own kind of currency. Western Africa has its own currency.
We're not going to go,
Europeans
I'm not
have
asking you to list them all, John.
So let's say if there's
about 200-ish countries, 197, depending on how you want to look at
I'd say 100.
I was going to guess 100.
No, there's 162 current currencies around the world. Now, 47 of those are linked to other currencies.
Okay, so why don't we minus that
off?
off?
Fine, 115. You're still wrong.
That's
pretty good.
But I didn't go over on
That
the
is
Price is
pretty
Right. I
close.
win, and then because you're absolutely right. You got the Scottish pound. Technically, it's 1-to-1 with the British dollar, and just all that type of stuff. A lot of.
But I guess kind of to your point, a little bit is that people. One, they want to control, I guess, with their bank and the autonomy of having their own currency for good and negative reasons, right? Some people don't want to be tied to others because they can't get their stuff together. But at the same time, it's also historical. So it's your opportunity to kind of put
capital controls on your people.
Well, no, I mean, it's historical in the sense that you have the king or the queen listed, or you have an old president. I mean, it's
and you can manipulate their spending
old dead
habits.
dudes.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. Then listen.
Way to turn it dark, Sam. I was just saying that it's also there's a historical side to people
enjoying. It'd be pretty sweet to be able to just cut it in half the value of it to some.
Yes.
So, well, that's what Caracas has been doing.
That's what Erdogan's done.
Yeah, it's not worth what it was. We're going to put a few more zeros on it. Well, I tell you what, guys, I'm not one of the ones that is traveling across the pond coming up here. I think Sam's already exchanged some of his money.
A little bit.
Some
cash.
And Courtney thinks you're an old fart for actually doing that.
I think he's an old fart for getting that
Sam,
already.
But Sam is the youngest one of the three of us.
Yes, but
by
he's
far,
the most cynical.
by far,
What do we say? He's
by
the most
far.
cynical of his generation.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with having a few banknotes in your pockets when you get off the plane.
I don't get what the downside is to having a.
Well, then you're stuck with it.
Okay, it's still worth something. It's not like it.
I'm just saying,
it's not like I have to burn it when I get back into the country.
Well, no,
It's not
Actually,
You got to burn it all.
They have exchange like
incinerator.
but it's not like you're really getting like you're still having to pay for that service. So I think that's my thing is like I didn't use it. I went for a week and I did not ever touch a single pound or euro or anything. You do everything is like on your credit card. You can just tap Apple Pay. It's just easy.
Okay.
Well, Sam did not exchange so much money that he's sitting around. He needs to take.
I'm not like swimming in Scrooge McDuck.
Doesn't have a bag. He's
Yeah.
taking on the plane. There's a dollar sign.
Yeah, let's tell everyone when
It's a
Sam will be at the
separate
airport
suitcase.
with all of his money.
I have a cash suitcase.
Well, you're going to check that, aren't you?
Of
Yeah,
course. Yeah. I'm gonna hold it right in my.
for lap the entire trip.
The thing is, all this really pales when we're really thinking about what Courtney's going to buy when she's back over in the United Kingdom visiting her sister. Last time she came back with
$70 teacup.
$75 teacup.
The price keeps going up according to the two of you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
like
the,
a $90 teacup.
but the thing is, she went to the grocery and got us like the 25-cent pack of shortbread cookies, and thank you for that. I still
you're
like them.
welcome.
But I wonder how expensive the Coronation teacup is going to be, and what do you think the odds are that this one right here to my right is going to purchase a Coronation teacup?
I'd put it at pretty good odds.
You would.
Yeah.
So what sort of odds would you put on it?
I can almost guarantee you that I will not be buying a Coronation teacup. I'm not a huge fan of.
You love the.
I do love the royal
royal
family, but I'm just not a huge fan of Camilla and Charles.
Well, why not?
I just think perception of, like the younger generation of William and Kate, and I don't know. We don't have to get into it right now, but I've
kinda like
read.
to get into it a little bit.
It's just. I don't think that our styles would be aligned. There was something about Queen Elizabeth II that I really adored, and I thought that she led. Obviously for so long, and I don't know. I was just connected to that, and the corgis, like all of it, just seemed. It was like a bit of history, and now I'm like, he's waited his entire life to be king, and it's just kind of like whatever.
They really did do a lot to earn all that money. They really worked hard
All
for
right,
it.
Courtney, I'm going to ask you this question. We talk about foreign currencies, all that stuff. How many dollars does it take to purchase one British pound right now?
$1.25. Yeah, when I went before, it was like
Thought you had her.
$1.15.
Yeah, I thought I had her. I really did.
Yeah.
I thought I had her.
I look at it every day.
I was. If you were off by 3 cents in either direction,
gonna
I was going to give you down the road. Okay, now how much for a euro?
91 cents. Well, yeah, 90. No, it's $1.10 is equivalent. I just looked it up. You were wondering what I was doing. I was looking up all my statistics.
Okay, so you
I
didn't.
can't
you
tell
didn't
you what
really
the
know.
yen is, though. I don't
About
have the conversion.
134.
There you go.
There you have it. So Sam, do you know what you're going to purchase with your Scrooge McDuck briefcase full of pounds and euros?
Not teacups. I'm definitely not going to be doing that.
Well, be careful when you pull out your wallet that you don't get, pickpocketed.
Stabbed.
Well, that too.
Stab. You're not
That
going
too.
to New Orleans.
John. Well, it is a big metropolitan city, so.
Never know.
Come on, you're not going to buy anything for us?
We'll see. It'll be a surprise.
I could see Sam wearing like one of those things around his neck that has like the money that you have like taped to your skin or whatever.
What?
That's
Yeah, what are you talking about?
What are you
You know,
talking
this
about?
hidden-
Taping money to your skin?
No, like the hidden.
illicit drug ring.
No,
trying to
like
get
the
money
hidden
back into
safety
the-
bags that people wear,
The
like
hidden
that are.
safety bags.
Yes, like you put your
Sounds
passport,
like something
your
you
license.
have. That's how well you know about it.
No, I'm just like I could see
Never
like
even heard of
pulling your
this.
necklace. Okay, let me get my cash out.
Okay.
All right. Well, you said you're not getting any cash. That you don't
I'm
use
not.
cash. That would be interesting. Why
Yeah.
you've got a cash holder that you're sticking down
don't.
your
I just
shirt.
can't wait for the
I'm
moment.
saying it-
I can't wait for when she goes, oh my gosh, I don't have any cash. And all they take is cash.
I do not
Just
think
take
that-
my Apple Watch and they're going to be like, I have no
No,
clue
listen
what
here,
that-
lassie. I'm needing a banknote. That's actually more Irish.
Yeah.
Yeah, a big note.
So I'm not sure what we accomplished, but if anything, one thing we did accomplish, or at least espouse upon, is that there's no threat to the U.S. dollar for the foreseeable future.
No.
It'll fluctuate around in price. It's a little bit weaker than it was, but a lot of that has to do with the perceptions are that the Federal Reserve is closer to the end of its tightening cycle than the beginning of it, and that perhaps the Bank of England and European Central Bank have some catching up, and rates will be going up faster over there than they are here. So these things have gained a little bit against the dollar. But moving forward, as I think we've established, there's not a threat, long-term threat. And so we will see the decade-long dominance of the dollar probably start to wane a little bit, probably start trading a little bit more in line with the other currencies, at least relatively speaking. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Well, having the dollar be as strong as it has been, it makes our manufacturers less competitive. Also means that we consume more than we produce, almost by definition. And it also hurts multinationals when they translate their currencies back into U.S. dollars. So
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm all for a little bit of a weaker dollar here. That means we might have to increase our international allocation a little bit. Who knows?
Possibly.
Possibly. Well, guys, we always love to hear from you all. So if you have any questions or comments, please, by all means, let us know. You can always drop us a line at tradingperspectives@oakworth.com, or you can leave us a review on the podcast outlet of your choice. Of course, if you're interested in reading more or hearing more of what we have to say or how we think, you can always go to oakworth.com, take a look underneath the Thought Leadership tab for all kinds of exciting information, including, Sam, the brand new Macro and Market magazine, our quarterly take on what's happening in the economy, what happened in the economy, and what will happen in the economy. Please, by all means, go on out there and take a look at it. All right, guys, y'all have anything else?
That's all I got.
The only thing I would ask is if we did have a different world currency, what would it be?
You see, when I ask that question, it's more of a rhetorical question.
Okay. No, John.
Sam, what do you think it would be?
I mean, I guess the best
pound?
bet would be the euro,
Yeah,
but I
euro.
just don't see that
Yeah,
happening,
yeah.
nor them
Oh,
wanting
okay.
that to happen. But
Wow.
that's the
I would say the same thing.
Okay.
All right.
Fair enough.
Last time, anything else?
No, that's it, John.
Okay, that's all I've got to tell you too. Y'all take care.